a story about a travel writer that has left her Amish life, but is tempted to return to it after seeing her childhood love 10 years later. The movie begins with our protagonist Kathy Yoder. She is on the phone talking to her assistant about a 23-hour flight that she will have to take for the start of her book tour. She walks into a restaurant with a headphone in her ear talking to her assistant. She asks for her reservation and is surprised to see her boyfriend Jack sitting at the table with her assistant. She is glad that there isn't a meeting but a celebration lunch about her book, Broke Girl's Guide to South Korea, becoming a New York bestseller. They sit down for lunch and Kathy is excited to just relax and eat, but her assistant starts discussing business, and even though Kathy doesn't want to hear it, Jack insists. They tell her that Jack's agents had called for a very interesting offer. Jack's show isn't as successful as it once was and they are losing viewers. The agents had come up with the idea that Jack and Kathy should have their show. Kathy is lost for words as the assistant asks her for a yes or no. She is confused because she is a writer and asks them if she can have some time to think about it, so they agree on that. They raise a toast and Kathy's assistant gives her a gift card for a spa day. Kathy thanks her and heads to the spa with Jack. They arrive and a rather weird-looking guy greets them. He tells them that they need to leave their phones at the registration so peace is guaranteed. Kathy doesn't want to leave her phone as there might be an emergency. The guy from the register tells her that they could give the number of the spa to their friends, but Kathy still doesn't like that idea. Jack convinces her as he says that her assistant already knows where they are. They go inside and prepare for their soul journey. They get different treatments, massages, and facials and they feel more relaxed than ever. After the journey we see the couple enjoying lunch in their robes. Jack asks his girlfriend how she feels and she jokingly says that she could stay there forever. Jack asks for her answer about the show and Kathy says that she would be crazy if she said no, but there is part of her that is not sure. She says that it is hard to travel 10 months of the year alone, but adding a camera crew to that would be even harder. Jack says that they'll be together and that she shouldn't worry about that. He feels like he and Kathy are pen pals and he wants to be in the same time zone as her. He is a little bit disappointed that she isn't as excited as he is. She says that she is, but a little part of her still says no. They finish with the spa day and go to the register. The man greets them and gives them their phones back. The couple laughs as they realize how much they needed their back. Kathy smiles as she looks at her phone, but her smile fades as she opens a voicemail from her sister and hears that her father has passed away. Kathy is devastated as she knew not to leave her phone, but Jack tells her that even if she did, her dad would still be gone. The scene cuts to Kathy driving through the beautiful mountain view. She gets a call from her assistant and they have small talk. Her assistant asks her about her Amish life and we learn that Kathy is Amish and that she left home when she was 18 and hasn't gone back in 10 years. Her assistant goes on to ask her about the answer to the show. Kathy says that she cannot think about that at the moment and her assistant understands. We see Kathy walking to a pie stand in the village. She goes to smell the delicious pies but is interrupted by a man calling her name. She looks up and sees that it's no other than Isaac Mast, an old friend of hers. She goes to hug him but he backs away and gives her a handshake as that is not allowed in the Amish culture. He gives his condolences and wishes that her coming back to the village could have been of another cause. Katrina thanks him and a little young girl comes from behind her. She hugs Isaac and asks who the woman in front of her is. Isaac introduces his daughter to her. Kathy kneels to the young girl and asks for her name. The little girl says to Sarah as she hands a flower to Kathy. They turn their heads once they hear Kathy's name being called. She sees that it's Hazel. They hug and Hazel tells Kathy to take as many pies as she wants. Kathy offers to pay but Hazel says that she is family. Isaac grabs a pie as well and as he is about to leave, Kathy invites him for a couple of drinks. He is weirded out by her words and Kathy corrects herself to going out for coffee after she realized that the Amish don't drink. She hopes that she didn't offend him and Hazel tells her that she has nothing to worry about, as Isaac hasn't been that happy in a long time. The only thing he does is make furniture and if it weren't for his daughter they wouldn't even see him. Kathy thanks her and invites her to come over for coffee. She goes over to a house and knocks on the door. After some time she realizes that there's no one home, so she goes to the back of the house. She walks into a room that once belonged to her dad. She sees an old sweater and takes it, because she and her mother had made that when she was little. Her sister walks into the room and asks her if she could help her. Kathy is surprised that her sister doesn't recognize her, but Miriam says that she knows who she is but she doesn't want her to be in the house. She tells her that they are meeting with her father's attorney tomorrow so she can take her English car and fancy clothes and get out of the house. Kathy is hurt but her sister kicks her out. She asks Siri for a hotel but the hotel is too far away, so she asks for a stay-in and finds one. Luckily for her, the place where she's going to stay is owned by Isaac. She asks Isaac where he and his daughter stay, and he says that they sleep in the cabin by the barn. Kathy walks into the house and smiles as it brings a lot of memories. She looks at her phone and sees a text from Jack. She tries to answer but her phone dies. She tries to plug in her charger but remembers that the Amish don't use electricity. A bookshelf catches her attention and she goes to grab one. She spends the remainder of the night reading a book. She goes to her sister's the next morning. Their father's attorney is more than pleased to meet Kathy, as his daughter is a huge fan. They sit down and wait to hear their father's will. Miriam is shocked to hear that half of the property belongs to Kathy. She says that there must be some mistake. Kathy tries to ease the situation and says that she will give her share to her. Miriam accepts that, but the attorney explains that the taxes may be too high for Miriam to pay. Kathy offers to pay for the taxes, but Miriam doesn't want to accept her money, as she doesn't like the fact that her sister is an Englisher. The attorney asks Kathy to stay a couple of days until the papers are ready to be signed. Kathy goes back to the house. She goes to her car to charge her phone and talk to her boyfriend. He asks her how she's going to survive without electricity, and she says the way she had survived for 18 years. They laugh about it and Kathy hangs up. She gets out of the car and sees Isaac and Sarah making flower necklaces. She joins them and even teaches Sarah how to do it. We see Hazel and Kathy drinking coffee and having pie. Kathy tells her about the situation with Miriam and asks her if Kathy's husband is a wealthy man. Hazel says that he isn't a wealthy man, and Kathy gets worried about the tax payment. Will her sister be able to afford it? Kathy admits that she feels guilt and sadness for leaving her family, and that she had no idea that Miriam would be so angry. Hazel says that she understands her and that she shouldn't feel such a way. Kathy looks at the pile of pies and says that she's never going to eat them. Hazel says that she knows a better way of using them as she smiles at the young girl. We see a beautiful dinner being set up by Miriam. She sits down with her family and they begin to pray. Their prayers are soon cut off by a voice from the door, asking if there's anybody there. Miriam recognizes the voice and hurries to the door. Before she's able to send her away, her children come running out of the house. They ask about Kathy and she introduces herself as their aunt. The children are surprised to find out that they have an aunt. Miriam is pissed off and decides to send the children into the house. She hands the pies back to Kathy and tells her that she doesn't want her in the house. Kathy is sad but decides not to bother her sister anymore. She goes home and gets on the phone with her assistant Evelyn. Kathy thinks that Miriam is right, but Evelyn says that she wouldn't be who she is today if she hadn't left. Kathy says that she's right, but she's hurt a lot of people by doing so. Evelyn comforts her by saying that she believes in her, and Kathy hangs up the phone as she smiles. She goes to the bookshelf again, and as she pulls out a book, another one falls to the ground. Her curiosity gets to her and she opens the book. She is so fascinated by the poems that she ends up falling asleep with the book in her hands. In the morning, she is woken up by what sounds like construction work. She looks out of her window and sees a shed. She goes to the shed with two bowls in her hand. She gets inside and sees Isaac building something with the wood. She offers him a Moroccan dish and both of them spit it out once they realize how spicy it is. They laugh about it and Isaac says that he will make a real Amish breakfast for her. Before they go to breakfast, Kathy sees a beautiful wooden chair and asks Isaac if he made it. He says yes and that he makes such chairs for a designer in Los Angeles, which had been a guest of his. Kathy asks Isaac about the book of poems that she had read last night. He says that one of the guests could have left it, but Kathy disagrees as the poems are about the Amish life. Isaac suggests that it might be his late wife's, and Kathy says that it would make a beautiful book. Isaac smiles and says that no one would want to read Amish poetry, to which Kathy answers that she would. We see Kathy trying to quilt by hand the beautiful sweater that she got from her father's room. Stitch after stitch, band-aid after band-aid, Kathy finally gives up. She grabs the book of poems and reads one of them very carefully. She repeats the words of the stanzas and realizes that she knows where the place that was talked about in the poem is. She rushes out of the house and gets into her car. She arrives at a graveyard and reads stanza by stanza until she reaches the place. As reads word by word, she realizes that the poem had been written by Isaac about the time when they were children. They would come to play in the graveyard and sit by the river to watch the sunset. He describes Kathy's beauty by saying that the sunset has nothing on the farmer's daughter in the last stanza. She gets to the rock where they would sit on and an old memory appears in her mind. Isaac tells a young Kathy that she shouldn't read books as she might get caught. She justifies herself by saying that the book she's reading is 100 years old and that there's nothing sinful in it. She says that she wants to travel the world, see Europe, and see where their people had came from. Isaac holds her hand as he asks her if she's serious about leaving the Amish, and Kathy answers that she doesn't know but hopes to see the world one day. Later in the day, Kathy goes to talk to Isaac. She goes to the door ready to knock but hears Isaac reading a bedtime story to Sarah. She waits until he finishes and knocks on the door lightly. Isaac opens the door, and Kathy says that she knows that he had written the book of poems while she holds up the book. Isaac closes the door and invites her to sit on the porch. They sit down and he admits that he has written the poems when they were teenagers. She says that he shouldn't have hidden it from her and he says that he wasn't as bold as she was. Isaac says that when he discovered poetry, he discovered himself. He says that he wanted to tell her about the poetry, and he was planning on doing so but she had already left. Kathy asks Isaac about sharing the poems with the world but he says that his poems are for him, and that he wouldn't want to scandalize the church. Kathy nods her head in agreement and hands the book back to him. He says that she could finish them if she wanted and Kathy takes the book as she says goodnight to him. She finishes the book late in the night and hugs it, as tears roll down her face. Kathy is woken up the next morning by a call from Jack. She is surprised to hear from him at such an early hour, but he says that he hasn't slept all night because his show is being edited. He asks Kathy to come back home and even asks her about her decision on the show. She says that she cannot come back home and she doesn't have an answer yet. He goes on about the show and Kathy says that she doesn't know when she'll have the answer, because it's the first time in a long time that she has been able to clear her mind and get a perspective. Kathy says bye to him as Hazel calls out for her and comes into her room. She asks Hazel what was going on downstairs, and she says that they are preparing the midday meal. She says that Isaac isn't a farmer, but he is very generous as he lets the community use his field. Hazel invites Kathy to help on preparing the meal and she agrees. Kathy puts on a more appropriate look and heads to the kitchen. Hazel lets everybody know that Kathy would be working with them, and they don't seem so fond of the idea. Hazel asks Miriam if Kathy could work with her on the potato dumplings, and she says that there's no need. Kathy asks everyone if they need help and no one seems to even notice her. Her sister tells her to peel the potatoes. Kathy grabs a peeler and starts peeling the raw potatoes. Miriam scolds her and says that she should be peeling the boiled potatoes and not the raw ones. She reminds her that they have helped their mother make the recipe hundreds of times, but Kathy doesn't let Miriam boss her as she finishes saying the recipe herself. Miriam smiles and the sisters even start to bond over the cooking. That is soon ended though, as Kathy's phone rings and reminds Miriam that her sister is an Englisher. Kathy hangs up the call quickly and gets back to talking to her sister, but her sister tells her off, as she has wasted enough time already. The women set the table as the Amish men gather around. They all sit by the table and pray before they dig in. They enjoy the delicious food, and after they finish, the women clean everything up. As Kathy is cleaning, Isaac comes and says that he barely recognized her because she was wearing Amish clothing. She laughs and says that she had borrowed it from Hazel. Isaac apologizes for not inviting her to the party because he thought that she wouldn't be interested in going. She laughs and jokingly asks him whether he had forgotten how much she loved to eat. Isaac sees the villagers looking at him with odd looks and decides to cut the conversation with Kathy as he doesn't want anyone gossiping about them. We see a beautiful father-daughter bond between Isaac and Sarah. The little girl asks her father if he ever wanted to fly, to which he asks if she meant like the birds. She says no, she wants to be able to fly like planes. Isaac reminds his little girl that they're not allowed to do such things, but she says that Kathy is. He confirms but says that Kathy had always wanted to travel and says that some people are born that way. Kathy picks up on her sewing back at the house. She's being careful not to cut herself this time. She gets interrupted by her phone ringing. She answers it and it's her agent. Through the conversation she mentions the book of poems by Isaac, and her assistant is more than thrilled, saying that she would be able to publish it. Later in the day, we see Isaac and Kathy taking a walk down a long road. Isaac says that it was his favorite time of the day and Kathy smiles, as she says that it reminds her of the walks they used to take after church meetings. She apologizes for leaving the way she did, for not saying goodbye, but she did that because she thought that he would talk her into staying. He smiles and says that he would have done that. Kathy says that she had to see what was out there and that she was afraid that she was missing out on something. Isaac asks her where she had been, and she just wishes that he would be able to see all the beautiful places in the world. He says that hearing from her is enough. Kathy admits that she sometimes wonders whether she missed out on some things by leaving, and that coming back has reminded her of how important community is. She admits that you could feel lonely even though you live in a big city surrounded by a lot of people. Isaac understands her and says that that's the reason he lives in the cabin. There is a lot of space that cannot be filled in the house. He also says that Sarah enjoyed having her in the house. Kathy smiles and asks Isaac if he enjoyed having her in the house as well, but he doesn't answer as he looks away in the distance. We see Isaac playing chess with Miriam's husband. He says that he is worried about Isaac and that he should consider getting a new wife. Isaac says that he appreciates his concern, but he and Sarah are fine, and there's a time when they will be ready. Miriam's husband says that it will be harder if he continues to hang around Kathy, and that those are not just his words, but everyone has seen the way he looks at her. Isaac says that he allows Englishers to stay in his house because it is a source of income. Miriam's husband, Amos, asks the young man whether he had feelings for Kathy. Isaac answers that his feelings don't matter and that she is leaving soon and going back to her life. Amos says that he should be careful because other people are not as forgiving as he is. Isaac says he understands and thanks Amos as he gets back to the game. The next morning, as Isaac is working on a new chair in the shed, Kathy comes in. She says that she has been looking for him all morning. Isaac says that he didn't know that his whereabouts are her concern. Kathy calls him grumpy, and he says that he had been to the supply store that was 30 miles away. Kathy wants to help him and says that she can set him up with the shipping company. He cuts her off by saying that he doesn't need her help and that he can do it himself. She tells him that she had fixed him a cup of coffee, but he turns it down and says that he has to finish working on the chair. Kathy goes to Hazel and asks her if she needs some help. As she's putting the pies in the boxes, she asks Hazel about Isaac. Hazel smiles and asks Kathy what the reason for her asking about Isaac was. Kathy says that they are just old friends, but Hazel cuts her off by saying that everyone is aware of her and Isaac's history. Kathy smiles and asks what the meaning of that comment was. Hazel says that maybe Isaac feels the way everyone knows. He has been happier than ever since Kathy had come back to the village. Kathy asks whether that is a bad thing, and Hazel simply says that she is going to leave, so that was heading nowhere. Kathy admits that she has been caught up on what she was going to do next. Hazel asks her about it, and Kathy reveals that she and Jack had been offered a TV show. Hazel gets excited and calls Kathy a TV star. Kathy smiles, but Hazel notices that she isn't excited. Kathy says that she and Jack enjoy so many of the same things like traveling and food, and Hazel cuts her off by saying that they share a fondness for pies, but that isn't the reason they are friends. There must be something holding Kathy back, because if she and Jack were so good, she wouldn't be doubting it. Later in the day, we see Kathy on the porch finishing the sweater. Sarah sees her as she sits in the grass and says that the sweater is beautiful. Kathy thanks her and asks her if she wants to come and see it. The little girl comes to Kathy and asks about the clothing. Kathy says that she and her mother had come up with the design a long time ago, and she was confident that she would win the junior clothing contest, but she never finished it. The young girl asks why, and Kathy tells her that she would tell her the rest of the story when she gets older. The little girl asks her where her Amish dress was, and Kathy says that she borrowed it from Hazel and that she's keeping it for special occasions. Sarah asks her if she wants another one as she runs into the house. Kathy follows and sees Sarah pulling out a red dress. She hands it to her and says that it is her mother's. Kathy says that it is beautiful, but they should keep the dresses in the closet. The little girl asks Kathy if she could keep watching her quilt. Kathy says yes, but suggests getting raspberry pies first. This brings a smile to the little girl's face, and she says that she loves raspberries. Sarah sits in Kathy's lap and Kathy teaches her how to quilt. They get interrupted by Isaac telling Sarah to leave Kathy alone. Kathy says it's fine and that she loves teaching her. Isaac convinces his little girl to come with him, as he is going to take her to a sleepover. Sarah asks Kathy whether she wants to come with them, and she says that it's up to her father. We see the three of them in the buggy taking the little girl to a sleepover. They arrive at Hazel's house and Sarah says goodbye to Kathy. Isaac and Kathy continue their ride in the buggy as they say goodbye. Kathy tries to talk to Isaac, but he doesn't seem so interested in a conversation with her. She talks about the sunset, and how nothing compares to its beauty. All the things she has seen in the world are not even close to the beauty of the sunset in her village. She notices that Isaac is acting weird and asks him about it. He says that there's nothing weird, and she says that there is because he doesn't want to talk. She tells him to pull over. He does so and she gets up quickly and disappears into the forest. Isaac goes after her and asks her to stop the foolishness. He goes through the graveyard like old times when they were kids and looks for her. He is drawn to the game as he thinks he sees Kathy and goes after her, but she beats the game as she comes and scares him from behind. He admits that she had finally got him after that many years. They go and sit by the river, and Kathy asks Isaac to hear her out without interrupting. He agrees and she starts telling him the ways he can publish his poems without anyone knowing that it is him. Isaac waits for her to finish before saying that he could never do that, because even if they never knew, he would know, and he could not live with that for the rest of his life. He admires English poets a lot, but he has no desire to be one. He sees the tears in Kathy's eyes and apologizes by saying that he didn't want to hurt her with his words. Kathy takes Isaac's hand and says that she realized that she didn't want to share Isaac. She wanted him for herself. Isaac says no as he pulls his hand from her. Kathy says that she can't help it and that she has feelings for him. She even asks him if she's the only one. Isaac says that he may have feelings for her, but they both know that they have no future together. Kathy says that she hadn't left the church technically, and Isaac says that technicality doesn't play a role in the Amish community. Kathy asks him whether he would leave the church for love, and he just says that they should leave because it is getting dark. Back at the house, while Kathy is reading a book, she gets an idea. She goes and puts her Amish dress on. By the time she puts it on, she hears a knock on the door. She opens the door and is surprised to see Evelyn and Jack at her doorstep. She invites them in and serves them a plate of her potato dumplings. Jack says that he had no idea that Kathy could cook, but she says that's the only dish she can make. Jack tries them and you can see on his face that he doesn't like them. While Kathy and Jack are eating, Evelyn interrupts by saying that the poems from the sexy Amish guy are really good. Kathy says that he is not interested in publishing them and that she has already told her that. She also adds that she has never called him sexy. Jack assumes the worst and asks Kathy whether she had met someone new. Kathy says no, and as she tries to explain herself, gets interrupted by a phone call. She answers the phone and hears the attorney on the other line. He says that the papers are ready and that she could come and sign them anytime. To avoid the mess she's in, she agrees to come right away. She goes to leave the house and tells Jack and Evelyn to stay in the house and not to go out. She goes to her sisters and they sign the document immediately. The attorney congratulates them and leaves. Kathy is ready to leave as well, but she wants to greet her sister and hand her the quilt she had made. She goes to hug her, but Miriam pulls away and gives her a handshake. Kathy is hurt but doesn't want to bother her sister anymore, so she leaves. She comes back home to an empty house. She searches for Evelyn and Jack and finds them in Isaac's shed. She hurries as she fears Evelyn and Jack's reaction toward the Amish ways. She goes to the shed and hears Evelyn talking to Isaac about his poetry. Isaac is hurt to find out that Kathy had shared his poetry with Evelyn and even asks her about it. She tries to explain it to him, but he doesn't want to listen. Jack chimes in by claiming that he is better than Isaac because he has a TV show, and he is jealous because Kathy had been spending time with him. Kathy yells at Jack and Evelyn to stop, and even begs Isaac for a chance to explain herself. Isaac doesn't want to hear it as he says that she had lied and betrayed him. She had fooled him into thinking that she was still the Amish girl he had remembered and that she was the same as her English friends. Kathy says that everything she had said to him was true, but he tells her to leave. Jack asks Kathy to explain herself to him about the new man, and she says that there's nothing to explain. He was an old friend, but they're not friends anymore, so she'll go and get her things. Over at Miriam's house, she finally goes to clean her father's room. She finished cleaning, but a pile of letters catches her attention. She opens them up and sees that they are from Kathy. Kathy has been writing letters to her father and mother all the time, and she had been sending money as well. This warms Miriam's heart, and she even sheds a tear when she sees that Kathy had been sending money as well. She wipes her tears and heads to the house to see Kathy. She arrives and sees that the house is empty. She goes into the backyard and sees Isaac working. She goes to him and asks where Kathy was. He tells her that she left because he asked her to leave, and that she is no longer welcome in his farmhouse. Miriam asks him the reason for such an act, and Isaac simply answers that Kathy had betrayed him. Miriam tells him that even though she doesn't know the manner of her betrayer, she knows that Kathy could never hurt him. She was convinced that after seeing the way Kathy looks at him at the midday meal. Miriam leaves by telling Isaac that he is a rational man in all matters except her sister's. On the drive back, we see Kathy in her thoughts. Jack continues saying that they are perfect for each other, but Kathy doesn't want to hear it. She asks Jack to pull over as she wants to say her last goodbye. What was supposed to be the last goodbye has turned into forever. Jack and Evelyn come after Kathy to take her back to the car, but she says that she has decided to stay there. She hugs Jack and says that he is in love with the girl he wants her to be, and that there's no future for them. He hugs her and wishes her well. She hugs Evelyn as well as she promises lunch in a couple of weeks. At nighttime, we see Isaac trying to put Sarah to sleep. The little girl keeps asking about Kathy, to which Isaac doesn't have the answers. Their conversation is cut off by a knock on the door. Isaac opens the door and sees Kathy. He tells her that it is not a good time for her to come in, as he's trying to put Sarah to sleep. The little girl comes out and is more than happy to see Kathy. Kathy offers to read her a bedtime poem that she had written. They go inside, and the moment Kathy finishes the poem, we can see Sarah sound asleep. Isaac sheds a couple of tears as he realizes that the poems are about Kathy's life. They go into the other room and Kathy explains herself. Isaac apologizes for being rude and that he shouldn't have jumped to conclusions. She tells him that she isn't going back to New York and that she thinks she belongs with him. She tells him that she loves him and she would rejoin the church if she had to. She tells him that she will do anything to be with him. Isaac rejects her and says that she threw away their future 10 years ago, and that he has Sarah to take care of. Kathy says that she wouldn't trust herself either and leaves in tears. She goes straight to her sister's house. She tells her what had happened with Isaac and that he had told her the same thing she did. She made her choice 10 years ago. He's not willing to give her another chance. Kathy asks her sister why she had come to look for her in the house, and Miriam says that she had found the letters. She hadn't known that she had been writing all along and that she had been sending money. Kathy says that she did all she could, but even that wasn't enough. Miriam reveals that the reason she had been bitter towards her is that their parents needed help, and since she was the only one there, she had to do the job. She even reveals that she had read her books and they laugh about it. Kathy admits that she has been all over the world and she still has no place to call home. Miriam says that's not true. The farm will forever be her home and she can stay as long as she likes there. There is a knock on the door. Miriam goes to open it and sees Isaac. She tells him to be quiet because everyone is sleeping. Isaac goes in and tells Kathy that he loves her and asks her to marry him. Kathy asks him what the church would say, and Isaac tells her that he will rent the farm out and move with Sarah. Kathy says that she could not let him do that, but he tells her that he is ready for their adventures as it is something that he has been thinking about. Miriam tells her sister to go with Isaac but reminds her that the farm will forever be her home. The scene cuts to a beautiful wedding. We see Kathy walking down the stairs toward Isaac and the beautiful little bride Sarah. We see them share a beautiful kiss after they have said their I do's. The movie finishes with the last words of Kathy's poem, saying that home is where Isaac is.